Long before Amber Heard pooped in his bed, Johnny Depp was singing songs we couldn't get out of our head. We're talking Cry Baby today on Grover Served. Hi, I'm Tanner Grover. Now, I'm not an advocate of cults, but I'll admit I've drank the Kool-Aid of John Waters. He's been bringing us cult classics for decades, whether it was Pink Flamingos, Hairspray, Serial Mom, Cecil B. Demented, or my personal favorite, 1990s Cry Baby. It's a musical starring a young Johnny Depp as the title character. He steals the heart of Square Allison, played by Amy Locane. But before we get into the details, if you could go ahead and smash that subscribe button, as if you're a crybaby, you've been locked up, you get your free phone call, you see Allison, you take the telephone, and smash that double pane glass, because nothing will stand between you and the love of your life. After all, orphans have special needs. I'd really appreciate your support. And while you're at it, go ahead and click that little notification bell, so hopefully more of me shows up in your feed. A friendly reminder that Grover Served is not a spoiler-free show. John Waters loves an outcast. He loves marginalized groups of people. He loves weirdos. And those people in this movie are the Drapes. They're leather jacket wearing, tattooed, motorcycle riding, freaks of nature. They're rebels without a cause. Black people, queer people, anyone that's not considered normal can be a Drape. They're punching up against the squares, the elitists of society. They're white, they're God-fearing, they abide by the 4 B's: brains, beauty, breeding, and bounty. It's unattainable and, on so many levels, unnatural. Crybaby is to Grease almost what Spaceballs is to Star Wars, but it's less parody and more satire. But let's get into it. The film's opening credits feature a music montage where 1950s high school students are receiving their polio vaccines. This does a great job of illustrating some of the differences between Drapes and Squares. Whenever a Square steps up to receive their shot, they cry like, well, little crybabies. Whereas when a Drape gets a shot, they're turned on by it. It's almost sexual in nature. We meet boyfriend and girlfriend Milton and Hatchetface, as well as Wanda, and the very pregnant Pepper, which is Crybaby's little sister. We're also introduced to Baldwin, who's the head square on the block, so to speak. Finally, it's Allison and Crybaby's turn to get their shots. They lock eyes for the first time, where Crybaby cries one single, salty teardrop. This sets the stage for our love story. After school, Allison attempts to befriend Crybaby and the Drapes, but is promptly whisked away by Baldwin and her overprotective grandmother. Her grandmother warns her about hanging out with such juvenile delinquents. Later that evening, both Baldwin and Allison perform at her grandmother's RSVP talent show. Crybaby arrives by motorcycle, a gift that he received from his grandmother, Ramona Ricketts, and her husband, Uncle Belvedere. Crybaby wants to invite Allison to hear him sing at the Jukebot Jamboree held at Turkey Point, a local hangout for Drapes. Allison's grandmother is totally against it. She doesn't want her to get her dress dirty, but Allison's been a good girl and wants one night out of fun. Her grandmother reluctantly agrees, and she hops on Crybaby's bike and heads off to the party. Upon arrival, Pepper, Wanda, and Hatchetface agree to give Allison a bad girl makeover because she thinks she's got what it takes. Afterwards, Allison accompanies Crybaby on stage, performing his hit, King Crybaby. It tears the house down. Everyone's loving it, except for the Turkey Point tramp Lenora. She's been pining over Crybaby for quite some time and is clearly very jealous. Afterwards, Allison and Crybaby are making out in a field when lightning strikes a tree. Allison tells Crybaby that both of her parents died from separate plane crashes. Crybaby reveals that lightning makes him insane because electricity killed his father. He was the alphabet bomber, he would bomb businesses in alphabetical order: airport, barbershop, car wash. They fried his mother too, even though she was completely innocent. Realizing they're both orphans, both Allison and Crybaby connect on an even deeper level. All this romance is interrupted, though, when Baldwin and the other squares incite a riot on Turkey Point. Fistfights break out, chaos ensues, and almost all the drapes are unjustly thrown into the back of paddy wagons. In the courtroom, everyone's pretty much let go, with the exception of Pepper's kids. They're put into the Chatterbox orphanage, and Crybaby, he's being jailed for rampant juvenile delinquency until his 21st birthday. Everyone's outraged. Allison's crying. Even her grandmother's upset. She realizes that Crybaby really likes her granddaughter. The only silver lining in this whole sequence is the judge, who looks like he has a crush on Allison's grandma. As Crybaby's being put behind bars, Lenora pulls the stunt with the press, claiming that she's pregnant with Crybaby's child. Allison hears the radio interview and proceeds to cry a jar of tears and then drinks it. Everyone's navigating the fallout in their own way. Allison takes the pieces of her broken heart and jumps back into the arms of Baldwin a little prematurely. Crybaby, meanwhile, he's in the hole, getting a teardrop tattoo and trying to figure out how to avoid getting a haircut. You have Milton and Hatchetface. They attempt to organize a prison break. Wanda, she's being set up for a foreign exchange student program. And then you have Pepper, Ramona, and Uncle Belvedere. They're breaking out Pepper's kids from the Chatterbox orphanage. On opening day of the Enchanted Forest theme park, Allison finds herself performing Mr. Sandman alongside Baldwin and the Whiffles, but she sees a lot of odd stuff going on in the crowd. Her grandmother is given a skull and crossbone pins by Ramona Ricketts, and then Lenora is now dressed as a square, making eyes at Baldwin. Allison's disgusted by the whole thing, and the drapes rescue her off stage. The gang makes a beeline for the prison, where Allison proceeds to hop on top of a car and read a rousing performance of Please Mr. Jailer. It's a plea to the judge, who's completely intoxicated by Allison's grandma, and orders the immediate release of Crybaby just before he's about to get his hair cut. There's a press conference outside the prison, and Baldwin provokes him. He says, "You know what, Crybaby? It was my grandfather who electrocuted your daddy, and every Christmas we sit around and tell that story over again and just laugh and laugh and laugh." Crybaby is infuriated and challenges Baldwin to a game of chicken, but instead of driving the car, how about you and me on top of the car? The final showdown of the film is nothing but a big ball of drama and excitement. We've got Allison reading one last song, High School Hellcats. We love being bad because it feels so good. Crybaby and Baldwin are headed toward one another at warp speed. You've got Pepper in the back seat of Crybaby's car giving birth to her third child. At the last second, Baldwin's car turns and they ram headfirst into a chicken shack. The exclamation point on the film is Allison getting launched off of a motorcycle and soaring through the air into Crybaby's arms. Everyone sheds a single tear, except for Allison and Crybaby. They cry a tear from each eye, and finally, the credits roll. Before I go ahead and rate this film, if you can remember to subscribe to the channel, especially if you enjoy what you're seeing here, I really appreciate your support. Alright, I am going to give Crybaby no notes. I'll admit, I am very nostalgic for this film. I used to watch it with my sister. I was 6 and she was 4. Yeah, our parents were pretty cool. But I remember laughing at that French kissing scene where the two kids would switch lollipops. We thought it was gross, but also hilarious. Then upon recent rewatch, I was watching the scene at the RSVP talent show. The grandmother was talking about juvenile delinquent women wearing tight slacks. Hysterectomy pants, she called them. Equally hilarious, and something I would not understand as a kid, but that's what makes this film so great. In about a month, I'm going to get to see John Waters live, and I'm hoping I have the chance to ask him about Crybaby. I'd be curious to know, what are your favorite John Waters films, and have you ever seen Crybaby? And if you had the chance to ask John Waters a question, what would it be? Maybe I'll take one of your suggestions, and I'll ask him myself. I'd really appreciate your feedback. Alright, until then, thanks for tuning in to Grover Served.